We can edit it out. Don't worry about it. All right. Welcome to Live from Dennis's house. Today we're doing Christmas with the Morgillos. And we have all the Morgillos with us here. We have my brother Thomas, my sister Mary Ellen, who you've seen before, my brother Robert, way in the back there. We have Chira, we have Lauren, and my brother Michael could not make it today, so we have his stand-in as a proxy. And the evil Santa. Oh yes, the evil Santa. So, and let's get to the album that we are doing today. It is Exile on Main Street by the Rolling Stones. I've been saving this for the longest time. I have purposely not done the Rolling Stones so I could do it when all the family was on here, because we were a Rolling Stones family. And if back in Queens, if you walk down 144th Avenue at any time, day or night, you would hear Rolling Stones blaring out the window from any window, even Grandma's at certain times when Lawrence Welk was preempted or something. So this album was released in 1972, May of 1972, and I'm going on record as saying this is possibly the greatest record ever recorded, the greatest album ever recorded in the history of recorded music. How does everyone feel about that?
You agree with that? All right, I'll go along with that.
Yes, you agree? All right. Well,
certainly have no problem with that decision.
Let me lower the music here, and so we can hear everybody. So, everyone's good with that? I actually debate this, go back and forth, because I actually may like Sticky Fingers even better. So this just goes to show how amazing this band, the Rolling Stones, were. That there's never been a more creative period for any music, starting back with Beethoven. If you go from 68 to 78, the albums that they released, can you name them in order, Thomas?
No.
All right, we had Beggar's Banquet in 68, followed by Let It Bleed, followed by Sticky Fingers, followed by Exile on Main Street, a double album, and then still followed up after that with Goat's Head Soup and It's Only Rock and Roll, wow. Some Girls, and it's just, this was the premier lineup for me as well. That they had Mick Taylor on guitar, even though I love Brian Jones, and I love Ron Wood too, but Mick Taylor was the best guitarist they ever had, very underrated. So we're going to talk about the Rolling Stones, and we'll talk about Christmas, we'll talk about us, but first, let's go back to Queens, New York, if you will. It's 1972. Do you remember our address, Thomas?
226-11, 144th Avenue.
Very good, all right. Now, Robert, do you remember our phone number?
LA 71244.
Very good. Yes, that was back in the days when you had like the Laurelton 7 5.
What was our zip code? Don't remember the zip code.
11413.
Well, that's it.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about the neighborhood and the house there. We were all jammed into this house. We have a big family. There's 5 siblings, and we had our aunt and grandmother living upstairs, and a mom and dad, and it was really like a 2-bedroom house to begin with. And we had all these people jammed in there, but we added on. And then, we all shared a room at one point. Me and Michael shared a room, right?
Oh, no, I always
had
a spacious
Yes. We'll get to that. The favorite child of all, as we can all agree, was Mary Ellen, right? We all agree on that?
Yeah.
And although I was Grandma's favorite, of course.
That's true.
Yes.
It's true.
So whenever Dad wanted to beat us, I would run up to her room and hang out there and watch Lawrence Welk for a while. But where was I going with this? What was I talking about?
How cramped we were.
Yes, we were all cramped.
We were living in cramped quarters.
So we, right.
3 to a room.
Our parents had a room, and me and Michael shared a room on the first floor. And Robert and Mary Ellen had their own rooms upstairs.
Right.
And because there was a fire. It was originally a small house, and then there was a fire, right?
No.
Yeah, tell us that story. How'd that work?
What happened was, in order to accommodate Grandma and Aunt Peggy, we built the second floor.
Oh, okay.
And in the course of building the second floor, the construction workers...
As a matter of fact, we were playing stickball on 226th Street, and we saw the flames going up.
Oh, man.
And we thought maybe they were just doing some construction or something and burning something, till we saw it catching up on the house. We actually called in our own house fire.
Then, I remember they put Michael under the stairs.
Yes.
Remember that? There was a room. It wasn't even big enough to be a closet, and it was just room for a twin bed.
They debated whether it was going to be a pantry or Michael's room.
Or both, it turned out to be. Whenever you want to catch up, you'd have to wake Michael up to go get the
Well,
catch
you needed
up.
to go get a can of tuna fish.
Oh, are there any good
Oh,
stories?
speaking of tuna
Speaking of
fish,
tuna fish,
I
wasn't
remember.
there a story about a tuna fish sandwich?
Yes, I recall. Rob, do you have something you want to share?
Robert, would you like to share a
If
story?
you wanna edit it, pre-edit it out, go right ahead.
All right, there was an embarrassing tuna fish story we don't want to talk about. Brings up bad memories for Robert.
Rob, tell us a
It's
story.
like
It's not an interesting story.
it makes him
is. Who wants
think
to
about
hear
that
the
time
story?
he was at Christian camp and the priest chased him around the rectory and grabbed him by the organ. Remember that one?
Yeah, that one too.
So that's a good joke. That's always a popular joke. That's like Uranus joke. You can use that every day. People will still laugh at it. So let's go back to our house and and since because you guys have children back there. Some of us have children. We have 2 kids, and you know how hard it is raising 2 normal kids in a normal neighborhood. But can you imagine what it must have been like raising 5 crazy kids in a crazy neighborhood? Our poor parents, what they must have gone through. So that whenever anything happened in the neighborhood, where did they go? They said, all right, there's 5 Morgillo kids. We got a good chance if something broke, it was one of them. So that leads me to the famous
Potato
Thomas story.
story?
Yes.
What?
Oh,
I'm only telling the potato story if he tells the tuna fish story.
The potato story was much more interesting. You gotta go with that.
All right, yeah, let's
Well,
hear this story.
The potato story?
Yes, the potato story.
That's the one you want to hear?
Yes, the potato story.
Okay, because all that was the person around the corner from us, Bobby.
Right. Bobby Bertha.
Bobby Bertha was his name. We were
post
at
his
his
address.
house, and for some reason, somehow they found a bag of potatoes. The whole big giant bag of potatoes. Don't know where he got them
Just
from or
laying
whatever.
around the house?
They were somehow they found them or whatever.
So logical
And
turn of events.
logical
What
turn
would
of
you
events.
do with a potato?
We got stupid as usual, and we started throwing them at the house across the street that had a big porch, and the goal was to see if we could get them onto the porch.
Okay.
And everybody started throwing them, and to this day, I still don't have definite proof, other than I was the one that was accused of it, but one got a little too far, and it went through the window, the front window of the home. So needless to say, everybody ran and whatever, and then the next day or so, it was decided that I was the one that threw it through the window,
Right, like I
because
said.
of a turn-in by one Joseph Pontillo,
Oh,
who
that
was the
snake in the
creepiest,
grass.
right, the
Yeah.
creepiest man in the world, accused me of doing it. So I couldn't even deny it because we were all throwing them, but I was the one who had to take the blame.
But I remember, though, your defense was there was a second potato thrower on the grassy knoll at the time.
I
Is that-
tried that one. I said, "You sure?" Because from the angle, the potato would have gone forward, back, and to the left. And that's not the way the potato was facing in the window. But again, I was shot down on that and had to take the blame for the potato.
All right, Robert. So instead of the tuna fish story, how about
the
hammer story? Since
how about
Michael's
the-
not here.
How about the Spielman pool incident?
Well, I was wondering where that was coming.
Oh, I don't know this
all
one.
of a sudden, I'm sorry. All of a sudden, this is a show about me. You refuse to say anything, but I have to
You
go.
had the far more interesting story. You got to go with the best material.
No,
All right, this
no,
is
I've already had my story.
This is the
Let's
Uncle
go back.
Thomas show. Yeah, tell us that story. We'll edit it out.
Ah,
Don't worry.
all right.
I don't even remember this story. Go
Oh,
ahead.
that was worse. That was the worst thing.
The Spielman pool incident.
Yeah, Leroy Spielman. Literally, he lived behind Neil's
behind.
house. Neil
Right,
Mitchell's
right,
house.
right.
He lived behind that.
Okay.
And they had a pool. They were one of the first ones to have a pool. Along with
and
us.
important to note, they were Holocaust survivors.
Oh my God!
And that had something to
That
do with the
leaves-
story?
that gives
Now
you
it's going to...
sympathy.
Oh my God, I can't believe my own sister just stabbed me in the back.
You may become a war criminal after
I
this
was
story,
gonna
so you
say,
better be careful.
Thank God I'm leaving tomorrow. But anyway, we again got stupid, and it was Mitchell, Tublin, myself, and Norbert, who lived on the other side.
Norbert Della Madrid. We'll give everybody's address.
We got
Yeah.
everybody.
We changed the names
We
to
got a
protect the
Jewish
innocent.
guy, we got a Catholic guy, and we got a Spaniard.
He's from
He
Cuba.
was from Cuba. I
Yes.
think he came over on the boat.
His father had a limp. Remember that?
Yep. Anyway, we decided that
He
we
was
would
kicked-
just throw things.
That will come into play later.
The fact that Norman's father had a limp would be a key thing in the
And
story.
did you
right?
know he was kicked by Castro's horse during the revolution? That's
No, I
how
didn't
that
know that.
happened.
I
Yes.
did not
All right,
know
go
that.
ahead.
He was hit in the thigh by a potato.
He was run over by a 1950 Chevy in his backyard.
Yeah,
But
so-
anyway, we decided to just toss things in the pool again, as stupid kids will do. And sure enough, we all did it. And I don't know, when they came back from either vacation or whatever, they were gone. They came to our house because, again, somehow my name was thrown out there as
Pontello,
for who we
Jeff,
know did it.
the
The
squealer.
usual suspect.
Yeah, I was like one of the usual. So they came to the house and they were talking to Dad, who, unfortunately for me, was defending me to no end and saying he would never do such a thing. Oh, no, that's crazy. You got the wrong guy. He didn't do that. So they called me out onto the porch to come out and discuss this. And I came outside, and Dad looked at me and said, "Did you do any of this?" And I looked at him, and I didn't feel like lying, and I said, "Yes, I did." And he just pointed me back into the room. Get in the house. He dealt with me later, and then he just apologized to them, and that
Wow.
was it. I was banned from the Spielman backyard, though. That was the one thing that
To
I
this
done.
day, or can you go
If they're
there?
still alive, I don't know. I don't know if they're allowed back in or not, but I assume to this day I was banned from the backyard.
Wow.
Which, an ironic twist, though, within a couple of years, our pool was attacked.
Yes, I do
viciously,
recall that.
And it was Norbert and Mitchell who did it.
Aha, you
So
sons of bitches.
show you
Retributions.
the creeps who probably turned me in were those two.
Mhm.
Blamed it on me, and then turned around and did it to our own.
It was a cutthroat neighborhood, I tell you.
Vicious.
Yes, he grabbed the hammer and went to hit Charlie with in the head, and you guys rolled over at the last minute, and he ended up hitting you
Just
in the
like
head.
any other movie you'd see where the guy's
Yeah.
going to hit him and he turned around.
And he
That's-
did have
And that
a-
wasn't even the worst part of the story. The worst part of the story was that with my head bleeding, Mom dragged me, kicking and screaming, to Dr. Austin.
Oh, my God.
Who was
Dr.
down the
Oster.
block.
Yeah, we
He
had
was
a
local
doctor.
doctor, and all the local kids couldn't stand him because he and his wife, when we were
Steal
playing
the
stickball, if the ball would roll onto their grass, they would immediately run out, grab it, and bring it inside to their house. So when I was brought in to his little office there, he's stitching up my head, and I'm like going crazy because there's a whole row of Penzi pinkies up on a shelf, you know, where all our balls were.
Oh.
So that was the hammer.
So I've
Really
often
nice
thought
story.
about that. Like, what was the mentality like of the adults in the neighborhood that would? Could you imagine like a ball went on your grass? Could you imagine running out, and taking it, and putting it in your house, and like not giving it back to a
No.
child?
Going back to
Terrible.
Thomas, were you the one who drew on the oyster?
Once again,
Oh yes.
coming back to
Yeah.
me. Did you guys set this up? And all of a
Well,
sudden it's
I
gonna be
remember
about
that
me?
story that you were
I
writing
wrote
Oster sucks on the sidewalk.
On
and
the sidewalk, right
As
in
he
front
was
of me.
watching.
Right, no, Mrs. Oster was behind you. No, there's another C in sucks. She was correcting your spelling on it. Yeah. There's one secret I still don't know anything about, and I still don't. We had a grandfather, a maternal grandfather, who I never met, and there's a lot of mystery surrounding him. So
His name is
tell us what you
John-
know,
His name is John Mandaro,
right?
and he abandoned May Mandaro and her 4 young children
Wow.
and left for another woman.
Wow.
In the same neighborhood.
That is
Well, blocks
scandalous.
I didn't know that.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
going to say, I never heard that part of it.
And here she is now. Come on in.
Do we know if he ever passed, Mary Ellen? Do we know
Well,
anything
I
about
think
him?
it'd be about
I think it's a
150
pretty
now.
safe bet at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, we should.
Anything else about him?
Ah, that
About
reminds me
the
then.
woman?
So, like, did
About him?
About the woman's name or who that was?
Grandma like ever go screw up his car, or smash his windshield, or go all carry Underwood on him or something?
Not
I don't think
Not-
so.
that.
Wow.
During our.
And did Mom ever
Formative
contact
years.
him after, like,
No.
she was an adult? He
No.
I
was
think so.
he was
And as a
dead.
matter of fact, she was vehemently hated anybody who was like that. For instance, Dad's brother Albert Junie,
Yes, Uncle Junie.
who fathered a child out of wedlock, and his parents, our grandparents, paid the woman to go away.
Wow.
And our mother had no respect for Junie.
Well, he was a buffoon also.
Right, for having, but in particular, for having turned his back on his child.
Yeah, is this the reason that Grandma hated Italians? Because she was Irish, and she always would have fights with Dad about the Italians and the Irish, and
Don't know.
it sounds like a reasonable thing.
Yeah.
So
Don't know.
Yeah, there was a distinct little hostility going on there. Which,
wow, we should look this up. Thomas, Google this while we're on break.
What's Google?
Oh, that's right. You still have the rotary cell phone.
I
I
get my
forgot.
rodeo cell phone here.
Which tying stories together, which has always been my thought, is that going back to the house fire incident, Dad faced with when he realized that he was going to have to spend 20 years with Grandma upstairs, set fire.
What better of things?
And speaking of adoptions, let us talk about the Thomas
That's
adoption.
Yes,
story.
I was thinking about this story.
You know, I swear to God, this is the honest to God truth. I came so close. I have the picture and the letters from those people still. And I
you
swore
should have
I was
brought 'em.
supposed to bring it with me.
Fax
And
them to me when you
and
get
I
home.
forgot.
I'll edit them in.
I'll certainly bring it up the next time. I'm going
Yeah.
to take it out and put it on my desk now.
All right, so you want to tell this story?
One day, if
No, Robert should probably start it.
Robert,
'cause he was
he
the-
was the one who got me
But you were
started.
the initial contact.
Yeah. You had to contact me to see if I'd be interested, right?
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, you
I
called
did, yes,
me. So Robert
because
called
you
me.
You weren't living in New York at that
No,
time.
I was down in Atlantic City, in Ocean City, and you called me to say that the woman, because she lived on Long Island, got a hold of you.
Right.
She tracked you down
Right.
first, and
She was from the New York area, obviously, right?
Yeah, she was from Long Island. Apparently, they lived not far from you. Was what my understanding was, because you even, I think you went. Didn't you go see her or something? Or you didn't go see her? Okay. Well, anyway, Robert calls me to tell me that this lady seems to feel that I'm her son. After all these years, now I'm in my 30s.
Yeah, you were an
now.
adult, yeah.
I'm in my 30s, but her reason being is that when she went into the hospital, she was told she was having twins.
Right.
And apparently there was some issues or whatever, and she came out with only one. And the reason that she connected me to this was my birth certificate number was the next in sequence to her son.
Wow,
who
this
lived.
woman is like, what's that show?
So it's like, what am I supposed
Mystery
to
She
think?
Wrote.
She sends me this letter. This guy, supposedly who was her son now, and
Your brother.
apparently my new brother, and slight resemblance, but I could show you 100 people that there's some slight resemblance to everybody. But she insisted that I was, but I did not ever accept it or follow through on it. And Mom and Dad were gone now, so I couldn't even ask them. And you guys wouldn't admit to it. So I felt that under the circumstances after all these years, although I looked into their finances, that these people were wealthy, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. I'd be the brother of that other family. But
In the mansion,
they were nobodies just like us. So I figured, what the hell? But that's the story, and I never did agree
Wait,
with it.
the best part of the story.
You did get a letter.
Remember?
Well, I said, yeah, she sent me a
No,
letter.
no.
You got a letter from your twin. Closing a
No,
photo.
the woman.
The lady did it.
All right, hold on. Let me tell this. That after all this,
yeah, your letter, you mean? Yeah.
after all this took place, I then wrote a letter to Thomas, pretending to be the woman, and I said, "Look, here's a picture of your twin brother," and I enclosed an actual picture of Thomas himself, and I said, "Look, here's your twin brother. Please come home." But Thomas did not fall for it. So
Unfortunately, I didn't.
now,
So I'm stuck with this bunch of losers for the next 20 years.
yeah, so there was a lot of stuff going on, a lot of excitement going on back then. The
Quite a lot.
scandal. You thought everybody was nice back then, but people were scandalous forever. I gotta say.
It goes to show you, everybody's got skeletons.
Yeah, exactly. Now, but see, that's the difference now. People had shame back then. Nobody's got shame anymore.
Yeah, now they make TV shows.
Yeah, exactly. Now you're giving an award. We used to play in the basement, and we were playing musical chairs. Do you remember this, Thomas? With our cousin, who was a little dim-witted, as they used to say back then. And,
yeah, this was
and
slow.
you and Michael, actually, you guys planned this out, that we had one of those little organs down there with a stool, and you took the screws out of the stool, and you said, all right, when Albert gets in front of the stool, we'll stop playing the music, and he'll sit on it. So we're doing it, the musical chairs, round and around and around, and then it comes to the part where he's in front of the stool, and you stop playing the music, and he sits on it, and the whole thing collapses, and we all run screaming hysterically.
Sorry, I have no recollection of that one at all.
Not to pick on the, well, I'll segue into this from something else, but going back to the normal goings-on and so forth in the house. If you remember, Dad, of course, most of the time was running a business out of the house.
Oh, yes.
And, of course, Mary Ellen followed in his footsteps in an accounting practice, but he was working out of the house. And, of course, tax season, there would be endless people coming over the house. And the office was down in the basement. And the rest of us had no respect, no thinking, no brain, no whatever.
Decency, nothing.
We're playing tackle football on the living room floor, right above where he was conducting business.
I know, he had his office, the plaster was probably falling down.
Talk about the air register.
Oh yeah, we were doing that too.
That's part of it. Thank you. And yes, and besides the thundering, hooves and on the floor right above.
Yeah, like real tackle football.
Yeah,
too.
in the living room. And the living room as small as this room. It wasn't a palatial.
And there was an air register.
The vent, yeah.
It was right there. Screaming, yelling, cursing, fighting, everything goes piped right down, right into the room down there. And invariably, several times a week, right during a session with clients, Dad would just have to stop. He'd have to run up the stairs. Marion, can you control them? What the hell is going on here?
No, he would take his belt off. We would all get whipped if we got there. So as soon as we heard the steps coming, we'd all take off running and then lock ourselves in a different room.
And blame it on Tom.
And Thomas would have his foot caught, and we'd all run, leave him there, and Dad whipping him.
Shackle me to the couch leg so I couldn't leave.
Yeah. So what was Mom doing during this whole time? She was playing Boggle, watching us.
So. Watching Wheel of Fortune, playing Boggle, God knows what.
All right. Here's a family trivia question. What was Mom's favorite cocktail? I'll accept one of two answers.
Tom Collins.
Wrong. And
a highball.
Nope. It was a Marielle, would you like to guess?
White Russian.
Yes! Ding, 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 ding. Get that bell for me. Yeah. So that was that. All right, let's. You guys.
Came out of nowhere.
The other one was whiskey sour. Remember, whenever Grandma and her would be in a restaurant, they'd ask Grandma, "What do you want?" She's like, "I don't know, Marion. What do you want, Marion?" And then Mom would yell back at her, "Just get what you want. Don't worry about what I want." And it'd be a 20-minute discussion about what they're gonna get, and invariably every time they would both get whiskey sours. So, but with White Russians came later. Yeah. And then, then the waitress would come back with the food order, and she's like, "Oh, Marion, what are you going to have? Don't worry about what I'm having."
Mm-hmm. And they would invariably get the exact same thing.
Yeah, I don't remember did they have a go-to meal? I forget.
I don't think Grandma ever did anything that Mom didn't say.
It used to drive her crazy. Yeah.
Right. And on the way home, it's Marion, you got a jelly yourself?
Yes.
You got a what?
A gel. They'd always have heartburn. It's like, "Oh, you got a gel still? No, I got a Digel or a Pepto-Bismol or whatever they want."
No, never Pepto-Bismol.
Yeah. Tums. Later on, the Tums came into play. But, that's the thing about having so many people in the house. You were never alone. That I was never alone until I was 18 years old. It was outrageous.
One time, I was asked to take the garbage out.
Oh, no. Don't get me started on the garbage.
Garbage was off to the side of the house, off the side door.
Right.
I took the 2 bags of garbage out the door, down to just 4 steps to the trash, When I got back up the steps, the door had been closed and locked by Grandma, who said, I was like knocking on the door. I said, "Are you kidding me? I just went down to take the garbage out." "Well, you can never be too careful." I was like, "Oh my God."
Yeah.
That woman was...
It's the same thing. Like sometimes
Not a
she would
fan.
make the bed if you got up
yeah.
and go to the bathroom. The bed would be made and things like that. But
And I used to get very annoyed at her over the years because I lived at home there for a while, longer than
so
some,
we all did.
but longer than some of you.
Yeah.
And I just heard all the crap about Dad this and Dad that, and she used to piss me off to no end. Grandma.
Well,
Yeah, that is
we
part
At
of
the
it.
end, I was not a fan of Grandma.
We didn't
At
get
all.
as much of that stuff because we
Yeah, you
weren't
had moved
adopted.
out. Yeah.
She could confide in you since you weren't a part of the
Right,
family.
I was the black sheep because I was the adopted one. But she used to annoy me to no end the way she would talk about Dad, and I felt, that she was a little,
a little ungrateful, you think?
Yeah, a little bit.
Someone takes you in their home and you badmouth
They
them.
build a house
But
for you and let
he-
you stay there.
He
and-
had such a great sense of humor, and he thrived on that. He would pick at her just to get her riled up, say things about the Irish just to get her riled up and stuff. And
Right, it ultimately gave him his best material.
exactly,
Probably,
yes.
yeah.
So our dad was a very funny guy, and I like to think we all got our sense of humor from him, and he kept us sane because. Usually the dads do that. Have you noticed all the moms are always crazy and the dads add levity?
Well, in
Absolutely.
addition to that, you have to look to Dad's family
Yeah,
and realize that he was the only sane
That's
one
true.
That whole
among
group,
yes.
verifiably insane
Right, he was sort of the
people.
black sheep there, but
In the good way, yeah. But anyway, let's talk about the Rolling Stones. This album here, Thomas, you hold it up. Look at that stuff in there. Oh, the thing I wanted to show here, a lot of pictures on here. You see this picture right up here? Show that to everybody back there. That they had a lot of freaks on this, and this guy right here with the balls in his mouth, he was known as Three Ball Charlie. And that made me think, isn't that what they called you in high school, Robert? After that bicycle accident? Anyway, he was a 1930s sideshow performer from Humboldt, Nebraska, who he could balance on balls, he could juggle, whistle, all with those balls in his mouth at the same time. Now that is entertainment.
That's when
You
entertainment
know,
was big.
yeah, exactly. That was when men were men.
Are those pens and pinkies, by the way?
Do you get them from Boston?
Yes. So this album was recorded in the summer of 1971 in near Paris, actually in Nice, France. They had rented a villa, and they recorded it mobily in the basement. And it was just a bunch of debauchery going on there, all these drug dealers and shenanigans going on, but they managed through all of that to produce one of the most amazing albums of all time. And everyone should own this album. It is a masterpiece. Let me name the songs off of here. Everyone think about what their favorite song is off of here. Ready? We got this. We got Rocks Off. We got Rip This Joint, Hip Shake, Casino Boogie, Tumbling Dice, Sweet Virginia, Torn and Frayed, Black Angel, Loving Cup, Happy, Turd on the Run, Ventilator Blues, Let It Loose, All Down the Line, Stop Breaking Down, Shine a Light, Soul Survivor. And that's this album ran the gamut from rock and roll to country to blues to gospel to you name it. And every song's better than the next. But my personal favorite is Sweet Virginia. I won't play that.
I agree.
Oh,
That's my favorite.
nice. See, that's why I was saving this for Robert to be on the show because he was the one who turned me on to the Rolling Stones. And then I like to say I was raised by the Rolling Stones. Mick and Keith raised me, along with the Wolves, and hence the behavioral problems. So, but I appreciate this love of music that I have now. Thanks to you, Robert. And I'm wondering that if I was the only child, would I have such good musical taste at this point? I don't know.
Poor Rob.
You know, what would I be listening to at this point? Nobody knows.
Nobody.
All right, Thomas, what's your
Al
favorite?
Martino.
Well, yeah. See, we would turn on to music at an early age, too. Our parents loved music,
Did
too.
you and I take him to a...
Oh, yes. That's what I wanted to talk about.
Right, throw
Yes.
Mary Ellen in there. We both took you to a Rolling Stones concert.
In 1975, when I was 10 years old, my wonderful brother Robert and my wonderful sister Mary Ellen took me to see the Rolling Stones at Madison Square Garden And here is the official program from that concert. And it was the best night of my life. And we'll look through this here.
So I've been there.
Even beats your wedding and the birth of your children?
Up to that point, it was the best night of my life.
I get it.
And it's just, I can't emphasize how much I love the Rolling Stones. That they are my favorite band, bar none. And this album, along with Sticky Fingers, are my favorite albums of all time. So, anybody else got anything to add before we wrap this up here?
We get to smell the album, Dennis.
Oh, yes! I almost forgot about that. Look, these are the postcards from the album, too. The original postcards. And I have a book all about Exile Main Street 2. With all the stuff I
Did
have.
you write it?
No. So, the tradition, Thomas, is to smell the album. Ah, can you smell it? Does that make you think of Aunt Peggy and Grandma and,
Excuse me? Woo! Smells like grandma.
Pass it along. All right, so we'll go out
In fact,
listening
in
to...
going back to the tradition of my introducing you to the Rolling Stones, isn't this my album? As a matter of fact.
Oh, we got to tell those stories before we go. That Robert, as nice as he was to take me to the Rolling Stones concert, he would not let me listen to his albums because he had this $50,000 stereo system up in his room. And when I was 8 years old, he's 12 years old. I was 8, he was 20. So can you imagine being this mean to an 8-year-old? He would go out at night and he had every album. He worked in an album store, so he had every album imaginable. I had my little close and play down in our room, listening to my one album.
Or AM radio?
Yes,
Yeah.
right. So, hey, no talking back there. So where was I? Yes. Oh, so Robert would go out at night and he would take the needle out of the stereo so I couldn't use his stereo. Can you imagine such treatment? So, years later, well, not that many years later, probably around that time, I got revenge on him. Do you remember these stories, Robert? That when I would wait for you to come home from work at this time, so you were taking the train, so I would watch you walk down the block, and I would quick run up into your room. It was wintertime and it was dark, so I'd lie in wait in your room in the dark, and I'd have my cold, clammy hand on the light switch, so you'd walk up into the dark and you'd go to fumble around for the light switch, and you'd feel my cold, clammy hand, and you'd run screaming out of the room and down the thing. And then I remember also that like sometimes when you were like sleeping in the morning and I was up and you would get up to go to the bathroom, I would quick run and hide in your bed. So when you came back out of the bathroom, I wouldn't open the covers. I would pop out. So there was a lot of fun going over there on 144th Avenue. So did you smell the album, Robert?
It smells like grandma.
No, you gotta smell the inside.
Yeah.
I noticed there were initials.
Right. You see, that one's not yours. Yours.
RR. Who's
Right.
RR?
No, that one I bought. As you can see, the $6.99 up there years back.
Okay.
So yours all had RM. I have a lot of your RMs on it, but that particular one is not yours. So, all right. So I got a lot of editing to do on this show. It's way over time, but
Where's Carol Ann?
she doesn't appear on the
Oh, I
show.
was going to say. I was
She's
gonna ask
banned.
She's a little worried about you by now.
Here.
Look
So.
at these books up there. Keith Richards' Life, Billy Idol, Heroin, Charles Manson, Please Kill Me? Is that what this one is?
I was gonna say.
I'm like, what the heck are you reading?
That's
Crazy
some
man.
library,
right next
huh?
to the Disney VHS.
Yeah, and then he's got the Disney characters on the other side.
Yeah.
My
Yes.
goodness.
All
I'm
right.
a man of many moods.
All right, I got to
All
wrap
right,
this up.
shut this off.
All right. Well,
That
hold
was
on.
fun.
Get your cups up.
All right.
Thanks for coming on. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Live from Dennis's house.
Great show. Great show.